For some of your views during this broadcast, let me introduce my guest, beginning from my farthest right. And we start with Madame Evelyn Jerry, Senior Superintendent of Police and also psychologist in the Office of the Inspector General. Thank you so much for coming in. We have Dr. Susan Gitau, a counseling psychologist. Asante sana. We also have Byron Adera, ex-Special Forces officer, entrepreneur, and security expert. Thank you so much for coming in. And retired Major Wairimu Mukuria. Thank you for coming in as well, military psychologist, and most recently a singer as well.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you so much for coming in. Dr. Suzanne, I'll start with you. There are very worrying statistics that have been seen. More than 14 women have been killed by people they believed would take care of them and keep them safe. And this is not just the women only. What happens in a person's mind when they turn against the person they once loved and shoot them 30 times or even stab them 23 times? What is going on?
Thank you, Trevor. I think I will begin by defining the ordinary or the common term that people use about stress. We have somebody who says they are stressed. They are in a state of tension, a state of destabilization, and we all go through stress. But we do have situations whereby this stress goes beyond your own coping mechanisms, and we can have burnout. And people who do routine jobs are likely to suffer from burnout, or people who work without getting leave from work, they do suffer from burnout. We also have post-traumatic stress disorder. Apparently, it is an invisible psychological war, I want to say, to so many people who don't understand it. And when we have somebody suffering from PTSD, and that is post-traumatic stress disorder, in simple terms, it means you have gone through an experience that you have never gone through before, and the stress that you experience, the psychological torture you experience after that, your coping mechanisms are down. They are depleted, you are exhausted. And you stop using the rational side of your brain. That is the left side of the brain. And you start using the left side of the brain that is limbic in nature. So you may find somebody who was very rational, well-meaning, somebody who stood up for others, if it's in a family, someone who was responsible. But after they go through a traumatic experience, that is no longer the same. And you find there are situations whereby, like what you've mentioned, somebody that loved you, somebody that cared for you, somebody that you believed in, turns against you to an extent even of taking away your life. And even questioning the manner in which they kill or the manner in which they batter somebody. They are never themselves. So there's a level of stress that somebody gets depersonalized. You are dissociated from the normal being that you have been. So whatever you're doing, actually, you are doing it. You can even step back and you start asking, who did this? Who has done this? So for me, when I look at post-traumatic stress disorder, apart from the normal stresses that we go through every day, it is a mental condition that needs to be given the attention that it deserves. And in fact, in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of 2013 that is currently used globally, it was set aside. Before, in DSM-4 and other diagnostic tools, it used to be with other anxiety disorders. But now it was seen as a stressor that goes beyond what people know. And most people that go through that, when I look at the service men and women, that is the people in the security service, they are always kind of combating real life situations. Their lives are threatened every day. And for anybody to be exposed to post-traumatic stress disorder, you are either preserving your life, fighting for your life, or you are at risk of taking somebody else's life.
Hold that thought and let me bring in Greg. Greg is with Mashirima in the audience. And Greg, one of the concerns is that it's not just for the military personnel, also for the people. How do people process that sort of discomfort that comes their way? because post-traumatic stress disorder, like she's saying, is after traumatic experience. But what of a normal person who just does something irrational?
Thank you so much, Trevor. One of the key things that possibly we have to understand as a society, that for me to actually introspect this pain, it passes through my senses. What I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I do. That is the first thing. So the body prepares us to actually respond to actually these particular issues. One of the key things that possibly you would understand, or possibly you're stressed, one is your body, your muscles are always tired because they are trying to recover because of the need of the energy that you need. The second thing, the loss of appetite. You'll find that possibly, since your body needs extra energy, you'll find that possibly you're not eating because the blood has possibly been removed from your stomach.
Yeah.
And also your pressure point at the back of your shoulders. You're always feeling that possibly you're stressed and they are somehow raised up, always. So, and also the muscles are always contracting. You'll find that possibly your breathing is never normal because possibly your body is trying now to recover, to have its normal state.
Yeah.
So basically, as a society, I have to be in touch with myself to understand whenever I'm seeing this thing, am I interpreting it as a threat, or do I have the capacity to actually deal with it the best way possible?
So then how do people who live together all of a sudden turn against each other? Because
Basically, as an individual, I may have unfinished businesses, basically from my past. As a society, I don't want to understand what is happening to this particular person. Today, we are more of strangers in relationships than friends. Why? Because I don't really want to understand where are you coming from, where are you, and where you want to go. We are a society, sorry to say this, microwave. Why? I want to meet you today, lovey-dovey, in the movie. That is what we want to experience. So every person comes with unfinished businesses. I have unfinished businesses within myself, where I'm coming from. I have been wounded. I have actually invested in you. Kenya is a capitalist society. I've given you money. I've made your life. I've made you come from somewhere. Basically, we are a society that has bottled a lot.
Yeah.
Bottled people have bottled a lot. We are not processing. We have so much unfinished businesses.
Okay.
And that is the bigger thing, because I see that possibly I'm losing you. I see that possibly you're challenging me. You've been this beautiful girl. You've been this good husband of mine. Now I'm not understanding you because I have issues. I think that possibly what you've become is a threat to me. How do I deal with a threat? Any threat that comes on my way is actually I have to respond. And the way we are responding, it's not rational. It's mostly irrational. Like taking somebody's life, making them cripple. I would actually take something, just mess up with your face. Because I think possibly this is what other people are seeing. And for me, I'm interpreting it as a threat. Why? I have unfinished businesses within myself.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Byron, you went through post-traumatic stress disorder. At what point did you know that you need help?
Oh, thanks, Trevor, for the question. I mean, my experience, I think, mirrors exactly what happens across the board, especially with the members of the combat community. If we dragged it back into history, I realized I was losing it after I'd been exposed extensively through, of course, very elitist training. So that's the special forces, and then taken into the theater of war, both within and across the borders. And more about that is when I became very, very conflicted. So my family life, of course, the special forces really does push you to the limit and beyond. And what it does to you as a person is you become, an extension of just the weapon systems. You're a machine in itself. And for some of us who are really, really wedded to this community of light soldiers, I did my best. I was doing exactly my best. And it's a community that expects 100% as a bare minimum. So to find yourself in an environment where you have other faces and facets of your life that are looking like they're dragging and stuck in the mud, you become very, very conflicted. So that's part of what majorly happened to me, to a point where basically I lost grips with my family. So that really pushed me really deep into the the abyss of stress and depression. And to make up for this, there's a lot of things that you do as a person. You guys may mirror what we're actually talking about in terms of how you draw yourself really inwardly. So you don't want to share some of your experiences. Of course, with the danger lurking out there that you'd look weak before your men. So for us as commanders who had men who are looking up to us, and of course we are decorated, we've had to break several records, and we are the top of the top. The finest of the finest, if you may. So if you are then again at a personal level thinking that you're losing it elsewhere, you're not really empowered to share this, and so it sinks you deeper and deeper. So that's part of what myself getting into a region where I was reeling in a bad inertia, and like being entrapped in a machine that you don't have the capacity or the levers to turn off the action. And ideally, again, because the support system that's very, very close to you, so talk about your mates, and not being seen to be in a position to help either. If anything, at that particular point in time, I was in my cadet class, the intakes we had. I was the only guy that was married, so I was again the role model here. So you don't want to come and face your buddies and tell them, I'm actually losing it and I don't have grapes with what's happening anymore. The family, on the other end, looking at you as a complete stranger. And again, you don't want to be looking vulnerable, in front of them. These are the guys that you lifted banners really high up in the air, and you are the member of that family that is looking like, that distant uncle that was in the army for you back in the day, okay? So you're the guy who's been handed the torch, so you don't want to face them again with signs and symptoms of weaknesses. So that is really out of the question. Now, the friends now in the civilian world, guys we were in campus and all that stuff, is a completely different bunch altogether, of course with different psychological makeups, because what you go through changes you in profound ways. So those are people that you cannot face. And then, looking above your shoulders, you don't know who else to turn to. Because with a very tightly knit community that the army is, all the answers you presume should actually be tapped from within. So you do not know what happens out there and how you can actually face it up. If anything, you're thinking, who else could
so
get
me out of this? You feel like you're alone and you're a stranger to the people around you. And Major, you've been dealing with this a lot with the veterans. Do they have a help system? Does anyone listen?
Military veterans do not have any kind of support system, be it psychological, be it financial. There's medical, only if you signed up for it, and by the time you were leaving, you had finished paying up. But even that one has it in its in between the lines, saying that it will not cater for psychological conditions, which
Why is that?
I have no idea. For me, I think it is just stigma. It's stigma, that's what it is. And when you think about it, it is so out of tune and out of line with the nature of the work for somebody to again put a fine print somewhere that you cannot, that they will not care for your, they will not cater for your medical needs if you have a psychological problem. And just by the virtue of the nature of the work, you will suffer psychologically. So it's stigma.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to bring in Evelyn Jerry, Senior Superintendent of Police. In 2016, there was alarming cases of police officers committing suicides. In the report, it came out that one of the things that was supposed to be done is to set up almost a mental support system in the office of the Inspector General. Did that happen? How far are we?
Thank you, Trevor. We realize that most cases implementation takes it's a process. So far, what I can say, it's not yet been fully rolled out, but the police service is making measures to ensure that currently we have at least a chaplaincy and counseling unit that has been created. but we need to formalize these structures, equip them, and also bring in personnel that is qualified to be able to give the proper services to police officers. So what I can say is it's in progress, and within a short period of time, I'm sure the Office of the Inspector General will be able to bring in those officers to be able to roll out the program very soon.
So essentially since 2016, it's still in progress.
Yes.
And it's not been implemented yet.
We can say the office has been created. It's not fully functional.
Why is that? Is it because it's not being considered as such a serious condition?
I cannot say it's not considered a serious condition. It's an issue that is ailing the society. Remember, police officers also come from the society as well. And we need to be able to create measures and mitigation measures that they can be able to access psychosocial support, whether they're in the service or when they go back to the society.
Okay.
So you find that the processes obviously will take some time. But what I can say is that something is being done so far, and not fully functional, but we're in the process of doing something.
All right.
Yes.
Let me bring in Mashirima Kapombe. Najua wenzako wana maswali mingi kweli Mashirima, ama vipi?
Naam, haswa wale ambao wamehudumu kama maafisa wa usalama wako na mengi ya kusema kuhusiana na swala moja ambalo limetajwa hapo na meja mstaafu Muthoni. Labda nitaanza naye ni Paul. Simama tafadhali. Peter, kunradhi. Simama tafadhali utuambie kisa chako.
Kisa changu cha vile ulikuwa
unafanya kazi wapi, ilikuwaje?
Nilikuwa nafanya kazi na KDF 7 Kenya Rifles, Langata Barracks.
Ikawaje?
Nilipoteza kazi na nikaambiwa ni juu ya insubordination. Nililuzi kila siku lipo hata nini. Hakuna mtu alinifuatilia ama kunisaidia ama nilitaa. You see, vile tu meja amesema, nobody follows up. Once umetoka tu kwa force, hawataki kujua utafanya nini na raia huku nje. No. You are gone kiss to them. Na walikutana ukakuwa kitu ingine. Kitu ingine ambaye ni ngumu sana kukaa kwa society bila kusaidiwa. So tuseme hata ni Mungu tu vile niko.
Na uko hapa na mke wako. Labda anaweza kusimama kidogo atueleze na yeye imekuwaje kuishi na kuwa mke wa mtu ambaye anafanya kazi katika idara ya usalama. Simama tafadhali.
Kwa majina naitwa Mary Wanjera, bibi ya askari X, wacha niseme X, na ni tatizo kubwa sana kuishi na yeye, manake wakati kazi ilimuishia wewe ungeweza kujua kuna matatizo ambaye anakabiliana nayo, kuzi wewe unaangalia shida ile uko nayo ya watoto na mambo kama hiyo. But let me say later in life ndio ni realize that vitu ndogo ndogo zingemweka kwa hasira sana, na kama ni kuadhibu mtoto ama nini inakuwa inapita kiasi. But because in the society we live in, hakuna mtu anaweza elewa nyinyi ni bibi ya askari na watoto wenyu wanafaa kuwa kama askari, wanaadhibiwa kama askari. So those are some of the things that I experienced much later, and na zikanitatiza sana kukua na yeye. But I'm grateful sababu nilikuwa kanisani, niliweza kuendelea kumuelewa hata saa zile sijui ninamuelewa kutoka what ground.
Yes. Asante sana. Na Trevor, labda hilo jambo linaweza kujadiliwa kidogo hapo kuhusiana na kama Peter yeye anasema alihudumu miaka 13 katika jeshi. Yeah. Lakini sasa nahisi ameachwa pweke.
Major, is that something that happens a lot in the system, and what more should be done? Because he's a veteran and he's served for more than 13 years, and then it just nothing goes on.
His case is not
dry.
His case is not unique. There are military veterans out here who have been able to not receive any form of payment, be it even the form of gratuity. They do not have the necessary support. For example, non-commissioned officers are supposed to get green books. He doesn't have a green book, and you know a green book is like almost a license to prove that you served in the military that can help you get another security-related job. And without that, how else do you take photos? What do you do? So that is the official document. And most people who are in the security sector know it. So if you go there and you say, I am a military veteran, they'll say, where's your red book if you're an officer? Where's your green book if you're an officer? If you don't have those things, then, well, I'm sorry, I don't have a job for you. But I think also the most other important thing to realize is that apart from doing security-related work, most of them, given the age that they have joined the military, by the time they're leaving, they really do not have another skill that they can be able to operationalize to help them to earn an income to support themselves and to support their families. And that there's just such an indignity, such a humiliation that these men go through because of the inability to literally buy food, provide shelter, do the things that men are supposed to do for themselves and their families. But because we are the society that we are, they do not own that vulnerability and transform it in a kind of a resource or a tool. They bottle it up, and then it shows up in violent ways.
You rose to the ranks of major. Was this a concern in the military? Was it raised?
What?
This issue of veterans just being left out to dry? What are they saying?
There is nothing that they can say. And I want to reiterate this. When it comes to military veterans, the military has no responsibility over them. They are basically just out on their own, floating. And, that's why a veterans law is important. And I'm now in the process of collecting signatures for the month of May, which is Mental Health Month, to actually petition Parliament to consider enacting a veterans law. I have about 300 signatures right now. And if there is anybody who believes that military veterans deserve by law to be taken care of holistically and wholly, go to the True North website. You will find a button, petition, download it, sign, send to my PO box. The instructions are there, and send me a hard copy, and we shall take care of the rest.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that it's not just enough to say what is not working.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that now we are at that point where we have to find out what can work to begin to impact these people in a way that will actually give them hope and change the trajectory of their lives and those of their children. Because I'll be honest with you, I am greatly concerned about what is happening to the children, their children.
All right. Hold that thought in just a bit. Mashirima, want to bring you in more. Kuna maswali bado?
Naam, Trevor, kumekuwa na visa sio tu vya watu kuwaua wale ambao wanawapenda, lakini kuna wengine ambao wanachukua hiyo hatua ya kujiua wenyewe. Na Joseph Gitumbe alikuwa na hudumu kama afisa katika jeshi upande wa wanahewa, na yeye pia kuna wakati mmoja alifikiria kujiua. Joseph, simama kidogo. Tueleze ni kwa nini, simama tu tafadhali. Utaangalia upande. Tueleze tu ilikuwaje mpaka ukafikiria kuwa hutaki kuishi tena?
Yes. Mimi niliumia nikiwa kazini, na baada ya matibabu kwa muda mrefu nikasimamishwa kazi. Baada ya kupeleka barua hata kwa mke wangu nikamwambia nimesimamishwa kazi, yeye alisema kwa sababu hata jeshi wenyewe wamekusimamisha kazi, hata mimi mwenyewe siwezi nikakaa na wewe. Kwa kweli wewe ni useless. Alipotumia kitu useless, nikasema jeshi wamefanya mimi nimekuwa useless. So nikamwambia sasa utanisaidia aje? Akasema kuanzia siku ya leo enda tafuta msichana mwingine uoe, sisi tunarudi kwetu. So yeye alibeba mtoto na wakarudi nyumbani. So nilikuwa very bitter in fact, because sasa nimeambiwa mimi sasa kazi imeisha na hakuna namna nyingine. So ilifikia sehemu nikasema the only thing yenye nitafanya tu ni kuona the cause ilikuwa nini. Mimi niliumia nikiwa jeshi, na jeshi wamenisimamisha kazi. Mke wangu ameenda na sasa niko jobless. So the best thing yenye nilifanya tu, mimi nilipanga kujua ni akina nani hao wamefanya nisimamishwe kazi. Unaona huyu daktari ambaye ako hapa, Meja Mkuria, alikaa medical board yangu nikasimamishwa. By the way, mimi sijawahi mwambia nilikuwa napanga kumuua. Hata kuna messages zenye nilikuwa namtumia. Yeye ndiye alikuwa the cause mimi nitoke job. Mimi nilifikiria hivyo. Kwa hivyo kulikuwa na watu wengine wenye nilikuwa napanga kuua like 6. Na nilisema sasa because nimefika mwisho, wacha nitafute mbinu yangu yote ni waue wote, na including my wife ambaye tumekaa naye zaidi ya miaka 4 ameniambia I'm useless. So kwa sababu mimi ni useless, hata nchi ya Kenya mimi ni useless na nilikuwa na wasao faithful, wacha basi au wenye walikuwa the cause mimi kusimamishwa kazi ni waue, niue mpaka huyo my wife ambaye ameniacha.
Ilikuwaje mpaka ukaamua kuwa hutafanya hivi?
Sasa wakati napanga tu niende kuwaua, huyu daktari alikuwa ameniambia kitu kimoja. Alinifanyia counseling mara moja, akaniambia kuna kitu inaitwa serenity prayer, ili akwambia God akupee the serenity ya na ile yenye uwezi una accept. So nikasema hiyo prayer mimi saisi niko very bitter, siwezi nikafanya. Wacha niende kanisani, pastor niombe. So mimi nilienda tu kanisani hivi, nikapata kanisa yangu ni Redeemed Gospel Church. Nikapata Pastor Nancy. Akanifanyia counseling, nikamwelezea kila kitu, but yeye alicheka. Akaniambia wewe unaenda mbali sana. Na wewe Mungu anakupenda sana. In fact hata nilifikiri kumchapa. Ile kofi nilikuwa nataka kumchapa, nimwambia hata mimi nimetoka military. Because wewe uwezi ukacheka unaniambia mimi ni mtu wa maana na mke ameniambia mimi ni useless. Lakini akaniambia wewe kuna sababu umekuja hapa. Wewe ni mtu wa maana, unaenda mbali. Akaanza kunionyesha upendo wa Yesu. Nikaona kweli mimi mke hajawahi niambia ananipenda. Na yeye kwa nini ameniambia hivi? Ilibidi sasa nikubali, akaniombea na nikawa na peace. Na kuanzia wakati huo nikaanza kuwa positive. Akanifunza jinsi ya kuwa na hope. Na hata sasa namtumikia Mungu, na sasa mimi ni evangelist. Yeah.
Asante sana Joseph. Tafadhali nadhani labda Trevor Byron anaweza jibu swali hili, manake kama yeye Joseph anasema alienda kanisani ndio akapata usaidizi, wewe ulienda wapi?
Thanks a lot Mashirima for the question. I'm really proud of the gentleman here. And it takes a lot of effort to get to where he's gotten to. I mean, a personal story that I've shared with people mirrors yours to some extent, because I personally haven't sat before, a professional help to this end, and that's a fact. Okay, so it's taken me quite a lot of mental strength, and tenacity to get to where I am, and a lot of positive, thinking. The power of positivity is amazing. As they say, in other words, my Swahili is not really good, but tenda wema nenda zako. So it will really help you to grow to the next level. Okay, and it's not the system. I keep telling people it's actually not the system. System is a community of people. So for whatever happened and people were forced to, asked by the structures and the policies that exist, that they have to sit in your board of disciplinary action. That's something that will happen. Of course, no one owns the system. No one owns the army. No particular person owns it. Everybody is actually in there, and it's a conveyor belt. They live. Okay? Notwithstanding, the system has got to take responsibility for their actions. And part of some of the punitive measures that we've had to see and witness are pretty attributable to very, what we'd call disastrous patterns of human behavior on the part of individuals who are not seeing the worth in say a solid soldier like him, and who are not looking at a genuine interest in the successes of those they lead.
Yeah.
So this you find organizations would be reeling in very bad inertia with disastrous patterns of behavior on the part of individuals, and when they find themselves in what some scholars call zombie attitudes. They carry this to the next level, and people get to hurt and hurt more. So what because I'm really positive about this, what I'd really wish to happen, and to everybody that's listening to this, perhaps even the guys who are still serving, is to have a look at how best they can transform some of these things. It's never done until it's done.
Okay.
You will die once, and of course you're born once as well. So until it's absolutely done, never give up hope. Never listen to any other voice that talks to you and tells you that you're useless. Think, practice what some psychologists call opposition thinking. So if they told you you're useless and you know yourself and you really believe in yourself, like myself here, no one is going to put you down. Okay? Believe in yourself and forge ahead. Of course, they say this. What can't kill you can only make you stronger. Okay. So look at the rosier side of things.
All right.
In my case, if you gave me something like that, I'd be looking at how best to make you look at me later when I'm possibly driving a bigger car than you do.
Okay.
When I'm possibly having a bigger job and better pay than you do.
Okay.
To be a perfect example of victory.
All right, hold that thought, Byron. Let me bring in Dr. Susan. When you hear such chilling statements, how do you get such a person who's hit rock bottom out of it? Because there are probably some people who are going through the same thing right now, very briefly.
Well, Trevor, I want to say I have been humbled by one Major General who believed in me and gave me an opportunity to volunteer my services for the Kenya Defense Forces, and it's specifically Kenya Military Academy and Thika Barracks, and during the Westgate terror attack. So these are stories I've heard. And for the first time, it wasn't easy for me as well and my fellow counselors. What happens is that you start thinking about them beyond the soldier, and you go to the family. And the most chilling and the most disturbing in when you learn to know what their kids think about.
Yeah.
I've had to deal with children whose fathers are missing in action. And they tell you stories, and sometimes you don't know what to say. To respond even to what Trevor has said, he is kind of a unique breed. And you hear he got into the military as a cadet. In most cases, he had tasted what academia is, and a lot of exposure, I imagine, he has beyond the borders of Kenya. But when you listen to him and the other officer, their ex-officer that talked, when they get in as servicemen, they are actually classically conditioned. That's why he said his words.
Yeah.
They made me this, and then they destroyed this. And I think this is where Evelyn is saying, we need experts.
Yeah.
We need people to explain what happens in the mind of a military officer, a police officer.
Yeah.
And why is it so damaging when it comes to them turning violent, even on their loved ones, or even any member of the society? And I know today as we are talking, it's my belief, because we have voices here that believe something must be done.
Okay.
I remember UPDF, that is Uganda People's Defense Forces. One of their lieutenant colonels telling me, take this clip to Kenya and tell them, Uganda, northern Uganda, we fought for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And one day you find a soldier who has the re-experiencing of the battlefield,
Yeah.
and shoots everybody in the pub. So we are also not safe as a
Okay. So we
as a
need more
country.
resources and more experts.
Oh, yes,
Let me
yes,
bring
we
in
do.
Major. You want to jump in real quick?
Real quick.
Yeah.
Gitumbe, I'm very proud of you and how far you have come. I was not in your medical board. But I think I also want to make it very clear that I think part of what made and makes my work so difficult is that people want to kill me. And I think that is something I've also never talked about. But he's not the only one. And you see, it's when this intense heart
Yeah.
is looking for a way out. Who is to blame? Who is it I can be able to hurt so that I can process out this pain that I'm feeling? Because it has to come out, and it has to come out by somebody else getting hurt. And maybe that's what we need to understand, that hurt people hurt people. People who are happy do not hurt people.
Yeah.
And that is why when people are hurting, it needs to be all our business, because they will hurt us.
Okay. Mashirima?
Na mtazamaji, kuna mengi yamesemwa, inaonekana sana tumezamia masuala ya wanajeshi. Tukirejea tutakuwa tunaangalia pia upande wa maafisa wa polisi. Usiondoke.